Chapter 5 of Book 6 of Topics, by Aristotle, translated by Octavius Owen. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Jeffrey Edwards. Chapter 5. Topics connected with definition, as to genus. Universally, then, one place is, that a definition is not framed through things prior and more known, but the particulars of it are such as have been mentioned. The second place is, if when a thing is in genus, it is not placed in genus, but in all such, an error occurs in the definition of which, what a thing is not previously declared. For instance, the definition of body as having 3 dimensions, or if anyone should define man to be that which is cognizant of number, for it has not been stated what that is which has 3 dimensions, or what it is which is cognizant of number, but genus would signify what a thing is, and is the first thing supposed of those predicated in the definition. Besides, if when the thing defined belongs to many things, it is not adapted to all, as if some one should define grammar to be the science of writing what is dictated, for the words, and of reading also, are wanting, since he has no more defined grammar, who defines it to be the art of writing, than he who states it to be the art of reading, so that neither defines, but he who states both of these, since there cannot be many definitions of the same thing. In some instances, then, the case is really as we have stated, but in others it is not, as in those which do not essentially belong to both. Thus, medicine is the science of producing disease and health, for of the one it is said to be the science essentially, but of the other accidentally, as to produce disease is simply foreign from medicine. Wherefore, he does not more define who refers to both, than he does who refers to one of these, but perhaps even in a worse manner, since any other person is able to produce disease. Besides, he errs who does not refer to the better, but to the worse, when there are many things to which that defined belongs, since every science and faculty seems to belong to what is best. Again, whether what is asserted is not placed in its proper genus must be observed from the elements belonging to genera, as we stated before. Moreover, if stepping over, he speaks of genera, as he who defines justice to be a habit productive of equality, or distributive of the equal, for when he thus defines, he passes over virtue. Omitting then the genus of justice, he does not state what its nature is, for the essence of everything is connected with the genus. This, however, is the same thing with not placing it in the nearest genus, for he who places it in the nearest has mentioned all the superior, since all the superior genera are predicated of the inferior. Hence it must either be placed in the nearest genus, or he must add all the differences through which the nearest genus is defined to the superior genus, for thus he will have omitted nothing, but instead of a name will have mentioned the inferior genus in the definition. Whoever, on the other hand, speaks of the superior genus alone, does not mention also the inferior genus, for the one who calls a thing a plant does not state it to be a tree. Chapter 6 of Difference as to Genus, Species, etc. Again, we must in like manner consider, with regard to differences, whether those of genus are introduced. For unless a person defines by the proper differences of a thing, or altogether asserts what can be the differences of nothing, as animal or substance, he evidently does not define, since the things stated are not the differences of anything. Observe also whether anything is divided oppositely to the difference stated, for if there is not, what is stated will evidently not be the difference of genus, since every genus is divided by differences oppositely divided, as animal by the pedestrian and winged, by the aquatic and biped. Or if indeed there is an oppositely divided difference, which however is not verified of the genus, since evidently neither would be the difference of genus, as all oppositely divided differences are verified of their proper genus. Likewise, if it is indeed verified, but the difference when added to genus does not produce species, since it is evident that this would not be the specific difference of genus, as every specific difference united with genus produces species. But if this be not the difference, neither will that which was mentioned, since it is divided oppositely to this. Moreover, he errs if he divides genus by negation, as those who define a line to be length without breadth, since this signifies nothing else than that it has no breadth. The genus then will happen to partake of the species, for every length is either with or without breadth. Since of everything either affirmation or negation is verified, so that the genus of a line, which is length, will either be without breadth or will have breadth, but length without breadth is the definition of the species. Likewise, length with breadth, for without breadth and with breadth are differences, but the definition of species is from the difference and the genus, so that genus would receive the definition of species. In like manner also the definition of difference, since one of the above named differences is necessarily predicated of genus. The place mentioned, however, is useful against those who assert that there are ideas, for if there is length itself, how will it be predicated of the genus that it has breadth, or has it not? For it is necessary that one of these should be verified of every length, if it is to be verified of the genus. This, however, does not occur, since there are lengths without breadth, and those which have breadth, so that this place is useful against those only who say that genus is one in number, and this they do who admit ideas, for they say that length itself and animal itself are genera. Perhaps indeed, in some cases it is necessary for a person when defining to use negation, as in privations, for that thing is blind which has not sight, when it is naturally adapted to have it. Still, it makes no difference whether we divide genus by negation, or by such an affirmation, as to which it is necessary that negation should be oppositely divided. For instance, if length were defined to be that which has breadth, for to what has breadth, that which has not breadth is oppositely divided, but nothing else, so that the genus is again divided by negation. Again, observe whether species is assigned as difference, as they do who define contumely to be insolence with derision, for derision is a certain insolence, so that derision is not difference, but species. Moreover, whether genus is assigned as difference, as that virtue is a good or worthy habit, for good is the genus of virtue, or is good not a genus, but a difference, since it is true that the same thing cannot possibly be in two genera, which do not comprehend each other. For neither does good contain habit, nor habit good, since not every habit is good, nor everything good a habit. Hence they would not both be genera. If then habit be the genus of virtue, it is evident that good is not the genus, but rather the difference. Besides, habit signifies what the virtue is, but good does not signify what, but what kind of thing it is. Indeed, difference seems to signify quality. Observe also whether the assigned difference does not signify quality, but this particular thing, since every difference appears to signify a certain quality. Consider also whether difference is accidentally present with the thing defined, For no difference is of the number of things accidentally present, as neither is genus, since it is not possible that difference should be present with a certain thing, and not be present. Moreover, if difference or species be predicated of genus, or something which is the subject of species, there will not be a definition, for nothing of what we have mentioned can possibly be predicated of genus, since genus is the most extensively spoken of all. Again, if the genus is predicated of the difference, for genus seems to be predicated not of difference, but of those of which difference is predicated, thus animal of man and ox, and other pedestrian animals, and not of difference itself, which is spoken of species. For if animal were predicated of each of the differences, many animals would be predicated of the species, for differences are predicated of species. Again, all differences will either be species or individuals if they are animals, since each animal is either species or individual. Likewise, we must observe whether species or some one of those under species is predicated of difference, for this is impossible, since difference is more widely predicated than species. Further, difference will happen to be species, if a certain species is predicated of it, for if man is predicated of difference, man is evidently a difference. Again, see whether difference be not prior to species, since difference must necessarily be posterior to genus, but prior to species. Observe, too, whether the assigned difference is of another genus, neither contained by, nor containing it, as the same difference does not appear to be of two genera, nor comprehending each other. Otherwise, the same species would happen to be in two genera, not comprehending each other, since each difference introduces its own appropriate genus, as pedestrian and biped co-introduce animal. Wherefore, if each of the genera be predicated of what the difference is, it is evident that the species is in two genera, not comprehending each other. Or is it not impossible that there should be the same difference of two genera, not comprehending each other? But it must be added, neither are both under the same. For pedestrian animal and winged animal are genera not comprehending each other, and biped is a difference of both these, wherefore it must be added that neither are both under the same, for both of these are under animal. It is evident also that difference need not always introduce its appropriate genus, since there may be possibly the same difference of two genera not comprehending each other, but it is necessary that it should co-introduce one alone, and those which are above it, as biped, winged, pedestrian, co-introduce animal. Observe also whether to be in a certain thing is assigned as the difference of substance, for substance does not seem to differ from substance in being somewhere, wherefore also those are to be blamed who divide animal by pedestrian and aquatic, as if pedestrian and aquatic signified being somewhere. Or are they not rightly blamed in these things? For the aquatic does not signify the being in something or somewhere, but a certain quality, since it would be similarly aquatic, if it should even be in a dry place. Likewise also the terrestrial, even in a moist place, will be terrestrial and not aquatic at the same time, if ever difference signifies the being in a certain thing. It is evident that he who defines will err. Again, notice whether passion is assigned as difference, for every passion, when increased, alters the essence, but difference is not a thing of this kind, but difference appears rather to preserve that of which it is the difference, and it is simply impossible for anything to be without its proper difference, since pedestrian not existing, there will not be man. In a word, nothing of those according to which the thing possessing it is changed in quality is the difference of it. For all such, when increased, alter the essence, so that if any one assigns a certain difference of this kind, he errs, as, in short, we are not changed in quality according to differences. He also mistakes who assigns the difference of a certain relative, not with reference to something else. For of relatives the difference is also a relative, as in the case of science, for it is said to be contemplative, practical, and effective, but each of these signifies relation, since it is contemplative of something, and effective, and practical of something. Examine also whether he who defines assigns that to which each relative is naturally adapted, for some things can only be employed for that to which each relative is naturally adapted, but for nothing else. Some, on the other hand, for something else also. Thus, the sight is employed for seeing only, but some one may draw up a weight, even with a strigil, notwithstanding, whoever should define a strigil an instrument for drawing would err, for it is not naturally adapted to this. The definition, however, of what a thing is naturally adapted to is that for which a prudent man, so far as he is prudent, would use it, also the science which properly belongs to each. Further, examine whether or not the definition is assigned of what is first, when it happens to belong to many things, e.g., that prudence is the virtue of man, or of the soul, and not of the reasoning part. For prudence is the virtue of the reasoning part primarily, since according to this both the soul and man are said to be prudent. Again, he errs unless that is receptive of which the thing defined is stated to be the passion, or disposition, or something else. For every disposition and every passion is naturally generated in that of which it is the disposition or passion, as science in the soul being a disposition of the soul. Sometimes, indeed, men mistake in these things as they do who say that sleep is the impotency of sense, and that doubt is the equality of contrary arguments, and that pain is a separation, accompanied with violence, of connascent parts. For neither is sleep present with sense, which it ought to be, if it is the impotency of sense. Likewise, neither is doubt present with contrary arguments, nor pain with connascent parts, for things inanimate would suffer pain, since pain would be present with them. Such also is the definition of health, if it is the harmony of hot and cold. For it is necessary that things hot and cold should be in health, since the harmony of each is in those of which it is the harmony, so that health would be in them. Besides, by those who thus define, it happens that the thing made is reduced to the maker, or contrariwise, for neither is the separation of connascent parts pain, but is productive of pain, nor is the impotency of sense sleep, but one is effective of the other, for either we sleep in consequence of becoming powerless, or we become powerless in consequence of sleep. Likewise also, the equality of contrary arguments would appear productive of doubt, for when in reasoning on both sides of a question everything appears to us to have equal weight on either side, then we doubt which we shall adopt. Moreover, we must consider, according to all times, whether there is any discrepancy, e.g., if one defined the immortal to be what is now an incorruptible animal, for the animal now incorruptible will be now immortal. Or does this not happen in this case? For to be now incorruptible is ambiguous, for it either signifies that it is not now corrupted, or that it cannot now be corrupted, or that it is now a thing of that kind, which can never be corrupted. When therefore we say that the animal is now incorruptible, we say this, that it is now such an animal as never to be corrupted, and this would be the same with immortal, so that it does not happen that it is now immortal. Nevertheless, if it should happen that what is assigned according to the definition is now, or was before inherent, but what is according to the name is not inherent, it will not be the same, wherefore this place must be used as we have stated. Chapter 7. Whether another definition may be more explicit, etc. It must also be considered whether the thing defined is enunciated by some others rather than by that definition which was assigned, as if justice should be defined a power distributive of the equal, for he is rather a just man who deliberately chooses to distribute the equal, than he who is able, so that justice would not be a power distributive of the equal, since he would be especially just who is most able to distribute the equal. Moreover, whether the thing receives increase, but what is assigned according to the definition does not receive it, or on the contrary, what is assigned according to the definition receives, but the thing not. For it is necessary that both should receive it or neither, if indeed what is assigned according to the definition is the same with the thing. Again, whether both indeed receive increase, yet both do not simultaneously receive accession, as if love is the desire of congress, for he who loves in a greater degree is not more desirous of congress, so that both do not simultaneously receive increase, which they should if they were the same. Again, examine whether when two things are proposed, of what the thing defined is more predicated, that which is according to definition is less predicated, as if fire is the most subtle body, for flame is more fire than light, yet flame is less the most subtle body than light. It would be necessary, however, that both should in a greater degree be present with the same thing, if they were the same. Again, notice whether the one is similarly present with both things proposed, but the other not similarly with both, but in a greater degree with one of them. Besides, whether a person accommodates the definition to two things according to each, as if the beautiful should be defined what is pleasant through sight, or through hearing and being, that which is able to suffer or to act. For the same thing at one and the same time will be beautiful and not beautiful. Likewise also will be being and not being, for what is pleasant through hearing will be the same with the beautiful, so that what is not pleasant through hearing will be the same with what is not beautiful, since opposites to the same are the same. But what is not beautiful is opposed to what is beautiful, and what is not pleasant through hearing to what is pleasant through hearing. It is clear then that what is not pleasant through hearing is the same with what is not beautiful. If then anything is pleasant through the sight, but not through the hearing, it will both be beautiful and not beautiful, and similarly we may show that the same thing is both being and non-being. Again, when framing definitions of genera and differences, and of all other things assigned in definitions instead of names, consider whether there is any discrepancy. Chapter 8. Of definition as to relation. If indeed what is defined should either be per se or generically a relative, consider whether that to which it is referred, either per se or generically, has not been mentioned in the definition, as if some one had defined science to be immutable opinion, or the will appetite unattended with pain. For the essence of every relative consists in a relation to something else, since the being of everything which subsists with reference to another thing is the same with that of being in a certain respect referred to something. Wherefore it is necessary to say that science is the opinion of the object of science, and the will the appetency of good. Likewise also, if a person defined grammar to be the science of letters, since it will be necessary in the definition to assign that to which the thing defined, or to which the genus is referred. Also, consider whether the definition of a certain thing referred to something is not assigned with reference to the end. Now, the end in each thing is that which is best, or on account of which other things subsist. Wherefore, either what is best, or what is last, must be stated, e.g., that desire is not of the pleasant, but of pleasure, for we even choose the pleasant for the sake of this. Examine, moreover, whether that to which a thing is referred be generation or energy, since nothing of this kind is an end. For to have energized, or to have been generated, are rather the end, than to generate or to energize. Or is it not that such a thing as this is true in all? For almost all men rather desire to be delighted than to cease being delighted, so that they rather make the end to energize than to have energized. In some cases, again, we must notice whether there is not a definition of the quantity or quality, or the where, or according to the other differences. For instance, what the quality or quantity is of the honour which the ambitious man desires. For all desire honour, so that it is not sufficient to say that he is ambitious who desires honour, but we must add the above-mentioned differences. Likewise also the quantity of riches which the avaricious man desires must be mentioned, or what quality of pleasure the incontinent man seeks after, for he is not said to be incontinent who is vanquished by any pleasure whatever, but he who is so by a certain one. Or again, as men define night, the shadow of the earth, or an earthquake, the motion of the earth, or a cloud, the condensation of the air, or wind, the motion of the air, for the quantity, quality, the where, and by what, must be added. In like manner as to other such things, since he who omits any difference whatever does not state what is the very nature of the thing. Indeed, we must always argue against what is wanting, for neither will an earthquake be the motion of the earth in any manner, nor in any quantity, as neither will wind be the motion of air in any manner, nor in any quantity. Moreover, in defining appetites, there will be an error, if what appears is not added, and in as many other things as this is adapted to. For instance, that the will is the appetency of good, but desire the appetency of the pleasant, yet not of what appears good or pleasant. For oftentimes it escapes those who aspire after a thing that it is good or pleasant, so that it is not necessary that it should be good or pleasant, but only that it should appear to be so. Wherefore it is necessary that the explanation should be made in this manner. If, on the other hand, what has been mentioned should be assigned, whoever asserts that there are ideas must be led to ideas, since idea is not of anything apparent, but form seems to be referred to form. Thus desire itself is of the pleasant itself, and the will itself of the good itself. Now it will not be of the apparent good, nor of the apparent pleasant, since that a thing should be self-apparent good or pleasant is absurd. End of chapter 8 of book 6. Recording in memory of Mitchell Edwards.